At the end of the day, whether or not you're a fan of the Islanders or a fan of any other specific team, we can all acknowledge that when it comes to the human beings that are in the top percentile of hockey players in the world, we all want to see them play. We want to see them do well. We want to see them succeed. We want to see them, even if they're not amazing, just have a role in the National Hockey League, or if they're not good enough, in the AHL, KHL, whatever. We just want to see guys play. But when it comes to this particular story, today we are talking about a guy that was supposed to be a lot better than he ended up becoming, and who may or may not have had some blame in that entire process. Let's talk today about a former New York Islanders top draft pick, a guy whom we all sort of had this idea that said he could become a very good player. We're going over to the 2014 NHL Draft and talking about the Islanders' 28th overall pick, Josh HoSang. Now, the reason HoSang is in the news today is because earlier this week it was announced on sportexpress.ru that his hockey career playing future is up in the air. We don't know if he's going to continue, not because he's injured or because he was forced to retire or whatever. It's simply a personal thing, how he might actually decide later that he wants to leave. Let's go over onto the article here. It's translated from Russian into English, and the link is going to be in the description below. GM of the Salavat Yuleev hockey team in the KHL says that HoSang can't get Russian citizenship. The GM of the KHL team says that HoSang is thinking about ending his pro career. In the latest messages, he says that we should calmly recruit the other players that we want, and he'll wait. He can even get Russian citizenship. We have already written to the president in advance. I would like him to come, and it'll be good in terms of the show. HoSang moved to Salavat Yuleev in 2022, and due to an injury, he missed most of the last season and has not yet signed with the team for next season. Now, this is all interesting, but just why exactly should you care about this guy? Why are we talking about some random player drafted in 2014 that might be retiring soon? Well, it all comes down to the details. Josh HoSang, as we had said, was a former first-round pick by the Islanders. In the 2013-14 season, wherein he was that 28th overall pick, he had 85 points in 67 Windsor Spitfires games, 32 goals, and 53 assists. He was a really strong offensive player, and this is what the Elite Prospect Scouting Report says back from 2013. HoSang often turns heads with his ability to handle the puck with ease in the offensive zone. He has speed and great offensive instincts, but he needs to work on his game outside of the offensive zone. If you go over to the Dalibor Prospect Scouting Report for Josh HoSang heading into the 13-14 season, the Windsor Spitfires quickly snapped up HoSang at 5th overall after he experienced a slight fall in the 2012 OHL priority selection. He's a former star of the Toronto Marlboros and is a highly skilled dynamic forward with elite skating ability. It's not uncommon to witness HoSang dancing his way down the ice, showcasing impressive puck skills in ultimate confidence. Opponents are forced to give him extra space to ensure he doesn't make them look silly by accelerating or dangling past them. However, while HoSang's offensive prowess is certainly captivating, too often he is guilty of playing too much like an individual, forcing plays and looking off teammates. Assuming HoSang can learn to best utilize his teammates and improve his team game, he has the chance to develop into a true star. This is the report on HoSang in 2014. Before the draft, he's one of the draft's top skaters and a player with big upside, but he does have some concerns, mainly his size and his carefree offensive game. Even the main report on Dalibor says that he is an extremely talented forward with great individualistic skills, but there are questions about his character that won't go away. Josh HoSang had all the talent in the world to become a top player, and I think most people watching the draft knew that. It was just a question as to whether or not he would learn to play a proper team game, and if said issues about his personality would iron themselves out as he got older. Well, long story short, HoSang was a continued stud in the OHL, 82 points in 66 games played with the Niagara Ice Dogs. However, when it comes to this season, there was a lot of controversy about HoSang and the way things went, particularly because Josh HoSang had a chance to actually play for the Islanders in 15-16, but he didn't. The reason for this occurred back in training camp. You see, HoSang was just coming off his Draft +1 season in the OHL. He had played pretty well, split between Windsor and Niagara. But, come Islanders training camp, you had the unfortunate situation where Josh HoSang had not set an alarm prior to oversleeping a day and missing the team shuttle. As a result, the team ended up leaving without him, and when he actually did wake up and get dressed and everything, you had Garth Snow go out there and make him run around the Coliseum a few times, and then he was sent home. That was all the opportunity that Josh HoSang got at the start of the 15-16 year, and they didn't call him up as a result, they just left him there. Now sure, hey, you're a pro athlete, or you're supposed to be a pro athlete, set a gosh darn alarm when you need to go somewhere, dude. But that mistake could have been just the overall canon event that changed the course of time for the worse. Because HoSang did go back to the OHL, and he played pretty well. But the next few years bouncing up and down between the Islanders and the Bridgeport Sound Tigers really did not see him ever become a shade of what we thought he was supposed to be able to be. And sure, there was some pretty good AHL development for a time. He was producing points, and he was getting some chances down there to shine. But heading into the 2018-19 season, this is where things sort of fell apart. You see, he was still playing with Bridgeport and the Islanders, bouncing up and down, but this is the Dalibor report back from June of 2018 written by Michael Farkas. It was a frustrating year for HoSang, and that frustration bubbled over into the press. From producing 12 points in 22 games in the NHL to being a healthy scratch in the AHL, the 2014 first-round pick has been the enigma that many thought he might be. He doesn't have much to work with in terms of his levels of talent and speed in Bridgeport, and that holds him back a bit. His flashy and flamboyant style can also lack the necessary pro ingredients to make an impact even when not scoring. That said, it stands to reason that HoSang will be in the Isles lineup for much of next season at least. His speed, skills, and stick handling have game-breaker upside, but the bottom end of the scale for him is enough to get on the coach's bad side quickly. The NHL game is played in tight and near the net, and HoSang struggles to get there and or be effective with his size and style. He'll just need the right combination to have an impact that matches his skill set. For most of that season in 2018-19, he had played with the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, and in the NHL, HoSang had 2 points in the 10 games that he had. Eventually, he took his talents overseas, played for Örebro, played for Linkoping, headed back over to the AHL to play with the Marlies, where he had 35 points in 47 games played. And now you have yourselves the season he has previously, where he had 1 game played with Salavat Yuleev, and he had an assist in that game. The article in the Russian website says that if HoSang wants to stick around in the KHL, he can. But he's thinking about ending his pro career, according to the Salavat Yuleev GM. And this is where things get pretty nuts, because you just gotta wonder what would have happened if this guy just, I don't know, set an alarm back in 2015. Sure, I'm saying this is a canon event, I'm saying this was the turning point. Maybe it could not have been. Maybe there were multiple years after the 2015 incident where HoSang could have proved his worth at higher levels of play, but he just didn't. With this in mind, though, I wanted to go over to the New York Islanders subreddit, which is where I actually saw this pop up in the first place. Some of the comments go out there and say similar things. What if he set an alarm that fateful morning? And then you have yourselves a really intriguing comment from DG Guitars. That whole debacle really went into his head, I think. While I'm 50-50, I do think the management early on did not set him up for growth, success, or confidence. I do think over time he has had multiple owners, coaches, and GMs pass over him. It's on him now. Another comment goes out there and says this: I never understood the HoSang love train. 29 teams skipped over him in the draft, and 30 other teams skipped him on waivers. He learned real quick that a kid brazen enough to wear 66 in the NHL who can't even wake up on time and listen to critiques from his coach wasn't going to go far. I don't blame management for holding him accountable and not able to adapt to the pro or semi-pro levels. It's all his fault. And yeah, we didn't talk about this, but the guy did choose number 66 as his number, which, if you know hockey players, you know hockey culture, you know there's a really big deal that goes on about respect and honoring numbers and superstition, etc. So if anybody's going to go out there and wear number 66, yeah, it was a big deal back then. It's still seen as a big deal now. Nobody really wears 66 in the same way that you don't see anybody else wear other numbers. Like, there's only 2 players in the league wearing 97, and 2 of them are top players in the entire world. So I can understand why the 66 thing got on people's nerves, but the number itself has been seen as some sort of an indicative quality as to HoSang's personality and the way that he wants to play the game. It's just unfortunate that things never really worked out, and this might be actually the first time we're making a video about this guy, which is kind of nuts considering how much of a highly touted prospect he had been for most of the 2010s. But now, it's been almost a decade since he had been drafted, and he may be on his way out of the hockey world entirely. So, for Josh HoSang truthers, for Josh HoSang haters, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this guy and the way he developed in the NHL? What are your thoughts on Garth Snow, the way the Islanders went out there and went through his development? What are your thoughts on the alarm incident back from 2015? Do you think there was any part of this story that says that HoSang was treated unfairly? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.